why Palestine belongs to Israel. 100 years ago, there was a process of resettling the Middle East, and in that process, some land was given to some people and some other was given to others. Palestine was given to the Jews. This was the conference of San Remo resolutions, and other resolutions like in the Treaty of Versailles, where some details were specified of how to manage the territories that were left after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. When I started to study the issue of the Palestine-Israel conflict, I hear a lot this narrative which is a lie, which is that Israel stole the land of the Palestinians. Besides that, there is no Palestinians in history. These people are Arabs, and they invented the Palestinian identity in order to steal the land of Israel. Just like they attacked the Maronites, which was the people of Lebanon. Lebanon was created only for the Maronite people, and the Islamists went and attacked it. And constantly what you see with all the Middle East is Arab violence. Arabs are violent, and these people, one of the main sources of their violence is Islam. And what happened with them is that they attack any other people. They do ethnic cleanse to any other that is not them. They do with the Jews, they do with the Maronites, they do with the Assyrians, they do with the Kurdish, they do with any other group that is not themselves or does not belong to Islam. So what happened is that they invented the Palestinian identity because it was a way to appeal to the United Nations and the system of self-determination, giving land to people when you claim you are a people. But it's not, because Palestine was given to the Jews. The story is that when this happened, there was the Balfour Declaration and the San Remo Resolution, the statutes of the Palestine Mandate. Palestine was created. Palestine did not exist before, and Palestine was created as a country just for the Jews. It was not created for any other reason. Why they don't create a whole united Middle East? So the reason for creating Lebanon was for the Maronites. The reason for creating Palestine was for the Jews. There is another story to tell about the name and origins of the word Palestine. It comes from an Israeli ancient Hebrew word, which means invader. It was Palestine was the name of the Philistines, a Greek people who came to the south of Israel, and they fight with the Israelis. This happened 3,000 years ago. And so they called it the invaders, Celeste, and the Philistines. And the word came to Greek, and from Greek to Romans, and the Romans replaced the name Judea for the name Palestine. Well, so just for summarizing, and I go straight to the point, I thought the important question was to look for whether it was true or not that the Jews stole the land of the Arabs, of these people. And did they arrive there and they expelled them and did they kick them? And I thought that was the important question. Looking for the information, I found that it was a big lie. The Jews did not steal any land. Not only this is the native homeland of the Jews, and therefore the Arabs should be expelled. But it's farther than that. They bought their own land. It is your land, and you pay money for your land. Every time that there was a process in which you are giving freedom and independence to people's self-determination, you don't have to pay for your own land. So it was quite an anomaly in this sense. But the Jews, the Arabs of Palestine, so-called Palestinians, they sold their land. There is a good book called The Claim of Dispossession, and in this book you find many of the names of these Palestinians, these so-called Palestinians. You find what is their names. They participated in massacres of Jews, and they were selling land to Jews. Why? Because they care about money. They care about how much money they were receiving for their lands. So I thought at the beginning this was the important question. Did the Jews bought the land or they didn't? But this is not the important question. Because the important question is, in the sovereignty, whose land belongs to? what determines sovereign nationality, what determines sovereign power for a nation, for a group of people. And what determines is that the legitimacy of the process of giving land to different people. In this sense is the San Remo resolutions and all the resolutions that were creating for resettling the Middle East, for resettling the sovereign territorial distribution of the Middle East. And this was a legitimate process, not only legitimate, but the Arabs received plenty, a lot more land than any other, more than Armenians, more than the Jews, more than the Maronites, and even two groups of people for which there was the intention for creating a state, the Kurds and the Assyrians. Especially the Kurds, there was a lot of conversation and talks about creating a Kurdish country, which they live between Iraq, Turkey and Syria. But eventually the idea was given up because in the end you either fight for your life or no one will fight for you. The Europeans were not going to fight for the Kurds. The Kurds, they have to fight for themselves. And because they were not organized, they have not political mindset, they were very backward people. The idea was eventually give up. Turkey took control of the areas. They were more organized, they have more weapons, more knowledge, everything. So Kurdistan as a country didn't came to exist. This is something that needs to happen in the world we live today. Kurdistan must be created between Turkey, Iraq and Syria, which is the land where these people inhabit. And because of the lack of creation of this state, the Kurdish people have been suffering a lot. So why Gaza belongs to Israel is because Palestine was given to the Jews. Gaza is part of Palestine. And when the Balfour Declaration and the San Remo resolution of the Palestine Mandate statutes, they define that nothing shall be done that prejudice the people already living there, which were the Arabs. Notice very something striking. This is the native homeland of the Jews, and the Arabs colonized it and occupied it without the consent of the Jews. The anti-colonial laws were never invoked against the Arabs. If these laws are invoked, they need to be expelled. And this phrase where he says nothing shall be done that prejudice the people, the non-Jewish population, it means the Arabs, the Christian and other peoples who live in Palestine, rather than expelling them and giving the land to the Jews exclusively, which is something cool and interesting to do. It's like you have more humane in your soul rather than expelling them, because every time countries were formed, there were expel of population. After the Second World War, when Germany, Czechoslovakia, Poland, these countries were established, many German people were expelled, many Polish people were asked to return or expelled. So this was quite like a gift to them. It was quite a gift, rather than telling them you have to go, you are due for expulsion. No. Nothing the British or the Allies, the Europeans and America, nothing they asked to the Arabs to go. But they forgot to do something very important in these statutes, both in the Balfour Declaration and the San Remo resolution. They never mentioned that if Arabs resort for violence, they are due for expulsion, because Palestine is for the Jews. So the question of Judea, Samaria, what is called the West Bank by the leftists, and Gaza, all of these regions, they belong to Israel because they were given to Israel, they were given to the Jews, and the Arabs, they already received plenty of land. More so when what we call today Jordan, it was before half of Palestine. Is the is the native land of the Jews, Israel. Part of the historical Israel is a whole part of Jordan. Of what today is Jordan, it was part of historical Israel. And because of the lie of broken promise that invented the Arabs in 1920, there was this correspondence between High Commissioner in Cairo, Mahmoud Hussein, and the Sheriff of Mecca, Hussein. And in this correspondence, they asked to do a revolt, to desert from the Ottoman army and to attack the Ottoman army. And the Arabs did not attack the army. The Arabs, they did not organize a big revolt. They didn't organize a revolt. The Hussein promised that 200,000 Arabs will be on arms against the Ottomans, against the Turkish. And it was a lie. It didn't happen. Only a few thousand, and only from their own tribe, the Hashemites. And so they invented this lie that they were this promise to the Arabs. It was only a promise to the Hashemite Arabs. And because of this, they decide that they will divide Palestine, and they will change the definition and the name Palestine, and they will stop calling Palestine to Palestine, and they will distinguish between Jordan and Palestine. So they reduce the definition of Palestine and they name Palestine only to what was. So why it was called Jordan? It was called Transjordan and Cisjordan. These names come from Europe. These names come from geography books in Europe written in the 17th or 18th century, when in Latin, the language that in education and science they used before, in Latin, Cisjordan means from Jordan to here, and Transjordan means from Jordan towards there. Más, no sé cómo se dice en inglés correctamente. So Cisjordan is towards here, and Transjordan towards there. So Transjordan was then changed for Jordan. So what is so important and so interesting in this story is that Palestine was divided into half, in what we call today Israel and Jordan. And this has been forgotten in history, because people talk today about the two-state solutions. No, it is the already third two-state solutions, because after this division of Palestine, there was then the Peel Commission that proposed again to divide the land. It was the United Nations partition plan, which called for partition of the land again. So what you have here is constantly, step by step, reducing the state of Israel and stealing their land. When Jordan was created and when Jordan was given to the Arabs, it was given to Abdullah, one of the sons of Hussein. It was given on the condition that they will stop any violence against Jews. That is a very important thing, because it means an end to what we call the Palestine-Israel conflict. Abdullah was said to him, was told, you will implement the measures necessary for ending violence against Zionism. Zionism is the return of Jews to their native homeland, to Palestine. That is Palestine for the Jews. You will end all violence. That is the precondition for the creation of Jordan, is the end of the Palestine conflict. This later in the 90s, the two-state solution, what was that? An end on violence. We give you the Judea and Samaria, West Bank, we give you that, and you give us stop violence. It's a scam. It's like, you attack me, you steal my money, and then you say, if I pay you 50 monies, you give me back my money. You are scamming me. It is ridiculous. That's the reason why Yitzhak Rabin, the Israeli Prime Minister, was killed, because Israelis were very indignant. They were very angry that the Arabs attacked me and I have to pay for that. I have to to deal with violent people? No, impossible. I'm not trying to justify it, of course not, but I understand the anger to that decision. So what we have is that Israel, together with Judea, Samaria, West Bank, and Gaza, they all belong to Israel. All of these regions were given to the Jews, and they belong to the Jews. And the Arabs, what is the solution for them? All violent people, they have to be expelled, or criminals who engage in acts of killing, they need to be given the death penalty. And those Arabs that continue the violence, continue the conflict, they need to be managed in a way or another, and either expel, move, transfer, or send them to Jordan. Jordan won't accept it, but you have to accept it because it's their obligation, because Jordan was created under the condition that they will solve this problem. So Jordan is part of Israel if they don't accept that, because it's the historical land of Israel. In fact, if you know the topography of Israel, of Jordan, if you know that 90% of Jordan population live on the part of historical Israel, which is the fertile area. The Israel-Palestine conflict is full of lies. Lies invented by Arabs, lies invented by leftists. For example, the lie of genocide was invented by an Israeli Jew called Ilan Pappé. And these so many lies, they are the ground in which many bad things happen for Israel. So the thing that Israel needs to do is to establish the Israel Intellectual Defense Forces, which is an army of intellectuals and students, scholars, that fight these lies. Because just like an army who defends your nation, an army of intellectuals will defend you against the so many lies that are being pumped against Israel. A big budget spending of the national GDP must be spent on this effort, must be spent on the defense, the intellectual defense of Israel. Today is 30th of January, and 30th of January 2025, and I just read the news of one ex-Muslim who was killed in Stockholm in Sweden. I don't know his name, but he was famous. This is the problem that we have with violent Arabs, Islamist Arabs. They not only create problems in the Middle East, and remember, the people who suffer more from Arabs are Arabs themselves. They live in a totalitarian culture. A totalitarian culture is one in which you are not free to think for yourself or have your own ideas, but you are forced to have certain ideas. You are forced to have ideas. If you don't have those ideas, you are being attacked or killed for not having the ideas that the general group want you to have. Islam is a very totalitarian ideology and sect. And I was reading a Reddit message. Someone was saying he was an ex-Muslim living in Sweden and he feels fearful. He feels not safe from any side. He says that leftists leave him with not options because he's called a racist for telling his story, being an ex-Muslim and being attacked and being sent threats by the Arabs and the Islamists. While at the same time his own people, the Arabs, the Islamists, they send him threats because he left Islam. So this is the big problem we have now in Europe, just like in the Middle East, which is that we need to get rid of this violent culture among Arabs. And those Arabs that resort for violence, they either need to be expelled or they need to be given the death penalty. We should not be tolerant with violence, and we need to stop it. We need to stop the massive terrorist attacks that happen all around Europe for all of these Islamists.